Chapter 24. The Tavern. Thursday, January 8th. It was now Thursday at 9 a.m., exactly 1 week after New Year's Day. Special Agent Bill Callahan was at his computer and received a memo attached to an email. It was also copied to Special Agents Wright and Branch. Branch, however, had already left the office and was tailing Maria. It was still hoped that she would lead the FBI to Sanchez or Rude, or perhaps both. Meanwhile, Steve Wright was in the coffee room talking to some of the other agents. Callahan looked at the email, printed it, and immediately headed down the hall in search of Wright. "Excuse me, Steve," Callahan said as he barged into the coffee room. "Yeah, what is it, Bill?" replied Wright. "You need to read this," he said as he handed him a copy of the email.
Okay, next we have a memo from Ted Atkinson, Deputy Director, FBI, HQ, DC, to all agents, Manhattan Branch. 1. Your search has provided CIA with clear evidence that the Guyanese government was not involved in any hacking of U.S. government databases. Department of State informs us that President Rao has been presented with evidence showing that Rude hacked and committed other crimes that are against the interests of both the United States and Rao's government. Guyanese government has not yet informed Rude that it suspects him of his criminal enterprises and advises that he may be in the U.S. 2. Presume that entry of Rude into U.S. is for purposes of furthering his criminal enterprises, to wit, to consummate the sale of classified information to foreign entities with interests that are potentially hostile to the United States. 3. Arrest Rude immediately if he is found. 4. Prior memo ordering delay in arrest of Sanchez is rescinded. All agents are also ordered to immediately arrest Sanchez if he is found. 5. This is a priority matter with national security implications.
Well, what do you know? Those flakes at State have finally given the go-ahead to arrest Rude, said Wright. My only question is, why did they wait until Rude made the news here? Made the news here? Asked a perplexed Callahan. Yeah. WXBS reported Rude's indictment this morning on the morning news. Why did they wait? He was indicted several days ago, wasn't he? Asked Callahan. I guess it took them that long to fish through all the files down at the courthouse. The fact that he is a foreign official who stole US government data, I'm sure, caught their interest when they saw it. Anyway, from what I've seen in our file, it looks like Rude had some kind of rogue operation going on, replied Callahan. A black market sort of thing. He's had more than that going on, observed Wright. He's got his naughty little hands in lots of cookie jars. Maybe those folks in Guyana haven't hopped in bed with the Chinese yet after all. Maria arrived at the Guyana Tavern at 10:57 a.m. that same morning, just 3 minutes before its opening. She was scheduled to work both the lunch and dinner shifts and to leave at 7 p.m. As she walked in, a voice from a table in the back corner of the bar area welcomed her. "Hey there, I'll have 3 filet mignons, a box of fried chicken and some lasagna to go," he laughed. "You shithead," she replied, recognizing the voice. "I'll fry you a filet mignon, all right." She turned and smiled. The sight of Sanchez made her day. "Ooh, is that a threat or a promise?" he beamed. No other customers had yet arrived, and the only other tavern employee was somewhere in another part of the establishment. The circumstances seemed perfect for the couple to share a warm embrace and a passionate kiss. Suddenly, a loud banging sound could be heard coming from back in the kitchen. "Fire! Help!" a voice shouted. Maria, stifling her desire to embrace Sanchez, turned and dutifully ran to the kitchen, hoping to aid her co-worker. As she did, Sanchez rose from the seat at his table and briefly considered whether he should help as well. "God damn it!" exclaimed the co-worker amongst the frantic clanging of kitchen utensils. "Get the baking soda."
Even Sanchez could smell the hot, burning grease and smoke in the adjacent bar area. "Do you folks need help?" Sanchez yelled to the sound of more clanging and cursing. "No, I think we're okay," came the reply from the kitchen. Sanchez slowly sat back down, hoping for another chance to talk to Maria before the lunch crowd came in. He saw a freshly brewed pot of hot coffee sitting on the burner behind the bar. It had the deep, comforting aroma of the Guyanese coffee that the tavern always served. Surmising that Maria would be preoccupied for a few minutes, he went over and poured himself a cup, added some cream, no sugar, and proceeded to walk back to his table. Just then he heard the sound of footsteps clopping into the vestibule behind him. Through the swinging doors into the bar area came a man who was wearing black leather gloves and a knee-length black cashmere coat. He also wore a burgundy scarf and black fedora and stood looking straight ahead towards the bar. He didn't see Sanchez, who was sitting to his left and slightly behind him. Sanchez felt a bolt of adrenaline and froze as he realized that he knew this man all too well. His heart started to race. Jesus Christ, Sanchez thought. His mind quickly went back to his escape in the Guyanese jungle. "Why in the hell is Rude here?" he whispered to himself. Calm down, breathe, he thought. He nervously but quietly checked the deep pockets of his hooded jacket. God damn it, Sanchez. Why did you pick this morning of all mornings to forget your Glock? He thought. Not so fucking good you are without your gun. Still not seeing Sanchez, Rude took his gloves and coat off as he walked to his right, which was away from Sanchez. Because Rude's back was turned to him, try as he may, Sanchez could not determine if Rude was carrying his normal sidearm. It wasn't until Rude circled the table he had chosen that Rude noticed his fellow patron. He froze, blinked, and then refocused his eyes in Sanchez's direction. Coldly, and without any display of recognition, he sat down.
Just then, Maria briskly walked into the bar, holding a tray with a cup, a pitcher of cream, and a freshly brewed pot of the coffee that Sanchez typically drank. She was very happy to see her Pete. She was, however, so focused on her mission that she didn't immediately realize that there was now another customer in the establishment. She got to Sanchez's table and, noticing his already half-filled cup, stopped, still unaware of the now tense situation. "I see you already got what you want," she said to Sanchez, with more than a hint of flirtation that Rude immediately noticed. "I always get what I want," a now nervous Sanchez responded. "Maybe I shouldn't spoil you so," she said, smiling more widely than the watching Rude liked. In the meantime, Maria couldn't help but to notice that Sanchez's demeanor had become a bit anxious. She realized that she did not have Sanchez's full attention. Maria then turned and gasped. "Oh shit, it's Nardi," she thought to herself, barely able to maintain her composure. "Oh, hi there, Nardi. I'm sorry, I didn't see you over there," blurted Maria nervously. "Hello, Maria," said Rude politely, but with a forced smile. His eyes darted between Maria and Sanchez as he quickly and correctly sized up their relationship. "It's so good to see you," said Maria, feigning enthusiasm. "Would you like some of this coffee?" "No, thank you," replied Rude. "But I will have some tea if you have any." "Okay, I'll have to go brew some," responded Maria as she nervously hurried back to the kitchen. The two men sat furtively looking at each other for what seemed like several minutes. Each was fully aware that he was being somehow studied. Each worried that the other could be armed. Then Sanchez's muscles tensed and his spine stiffened as he saw Rude slowly get up and approach him. "So tell me, Mr. Sanchez, when will you be doing us the favor of a visit again?" said Rude, now standing on the opposite side of Sanchez's table. After all, you are here, and you certainly seem to like all things Guyanese. No time soon if I can help it, replied Sanchez, his eyes shuttling between Rude's eyes and his jacket as he looked for hints of a weapon. A person could get killed in your not-so-cozy little country. Ms. Maria is really not Guyanese, you know, said Rude, in a rather casual but sinister manner. And how do you know? Asked an intrigued Sanchez. We intend on spending some time together, chided Rude. Stay calm, Pete. He's only trying to distract you, to get to you to make a mistake, thought Sanchez. You know, Rude, began Sanchez, looking Rude squarely in the eyes. You seem to have a way of always doing the unexpected. You seem to be in places you shouldn't be. You seem to know things you shouldn't know. And for some odd reason, you seem to want to hurt the people who try to help you. As Rude stood and stoically considering his next step, Sanchez now noticed that there was, in fact, a bulge on the left side of Rude's suit jacket. Alarmed, the only thing Sanchez thought that he could do was to keep the conversation going. He did not, however, want to say anything about the fact that he had heard the news story about Rude's indictment. Sanchez did not know whether Rude had also heard the news, and he certainly had no idea as to what kind of response saying something about it would elicit from Rude. Sanchez then broke the momentary silence. So tell me, how is it that you allowed that assassination attempt to take place at all? I gave you plenty of warning. Next thing I know, you're pounding at my door, and I'm running for my life through the jungle. Before Rude could respond, Maria came out from the kitchen and quickly approached Sanchez's table, where she then stood between the two rivals. Here's your tea, Nadi, said Maria anxiously. Are you sitting? Here? At that moment, two armed men unexpectedly burst through the swinging doors and into the bar area. Both had their pistols drawn and pointed at Rude. FBI, you're under... As Special Agent Wright said, "Arrest," Agent Branch recognized Sanchez and quickly swung his gun around and pointed it at him. When he did, however, Maria instinctively stepped between Branch and Sanchez, intending to protect the latter. "Steve, look, it's..." cried Branch. However, before Branch could finish, Wright looked to his left at Sanchez. When he did, Rude quickly drew a concealed pistol from his jacket as Branch yelled, "Watch out!" Immediately, 3 loud, crackling pops were heard as Wright, Branch and Sanchez dove for cover. Maria fell as Rude bolted for the rear exit, firing 2 more shots as he fled. Agent Wright scrambled, quickly collected himself and pointed his gun in the direction of the escaping Rude. Not knowing if any other employees were in the area, however, he held his fire. He turned and saw, to his great dismay, that his partner had been shot, as had Maria. As best he could, he quickly focused his eyes on both to determine their condition. He was uncertain about his partner, but Maria's wound appeared to be only superficial. It was only a flesh wound to the arm. Wright's real problem, however, was that Sanchez now had Branch's gun. "Hold it, bub," barked Sanchez, who was breathing heavily and pointing Branch's gun directly at Wright's head. Sanchez then quickly glanced in the direction of the rear exit before continuing. "Believe it or not, I'm on your side." "I sure don't feel that way, Mr. Sanchez," responded Wright as he raised one hand and slowly put his gun on the table with the other. "But you'll pardon me if I don't give you my gun," continued Sanchez. "I'll need it to get out of here myself in a second or two." "I'm listening. Whatever you want," replied Wright warily. "My beef isn't with you, but I don't have time to explain. But listen, and listen very carefully. I'll shoot your ass if you don't go get that motherfucking Rude. He's a very, very dangerous man," growled Sanchez, nodding in the direction of the rear exit. "What?" With what? Asked a befuddled Wright. Pick up your gun by the barrel, very, very slowly, and with your left hand, not your right. Wright did so, ever so slowly and exactly as Sanchez commanded. Keep it in your left hand and by the barrel until you get out the back door. Now go ahead and go. Get him! He's getting away! Wright, looking perplexed, then peered down at Branch. Yeah, go! I think I'm okay. It's just my thigh, reassured Branch. Wright hesitated and then noticed that he too had a bullet hole in his jacket. He was lucky, however, because he was not wounded. Go, you fucking asshole! Shouted Sanchez. Get him! Listen to him, Steve. I'll be okay. We'll get an ambulance. Get him, groaned Branch. With that, Wright got up and gave chase to the fleeing Rude. Sanchez followed Wright to the rear exit to make sure that he, in fact, followed Rude. After he satisfied himself that Wright had, Sanchez then came back to Maria and Branch. He looked at Maria's arm. Seeing that it wasn't too serious, Sanchez gave her his handkerchief and assured her that she would be all right. He then looked at Branch's more serious wound and asked Maria's co-worker to call an ambulance and see if she could find something to be used as a tourniquet for Branch's thigh. It was then, to the shock of all concerned, that footsteps were heard, and Paul walked through the swinging doors only to find himself standing amidst all of the carnage. A startled Sanchez immediately turned around and pointed Branch's gun right between Paul's eyes. "Whoa, don't shoot! Please, don't shoot!" a terrified Paul said as he raised his hands and backed up a step or two. Sanchez menacingly glared at Paul for a moment. "Stop! Put that down, Pete. He's not going to hurt you. He's my friend," Maria yelled at Sanchez. Sanchez stood there with his gun pointed at Paul's head as he studied him for what seemed to Paul like an eternity. "Well, I guess he doesn't look like anyone from the agency or the FBI," said Sanchez. Feeling a little relieved, Sanchez nodded in the direction of another table. "Go over there and sit, mister. Now!" As Paul obediently sat down, Sanchez looked towards the kitchen. "Hurry up with that tourniquet," he yelled. The fierce expression on Sanchez's face then turned very tender as he lowered his gun and looked at Maria. "Look, Sandpiper, I'm gonna have to get out of here quick-like before the cavalry shows up. Are you sure you're gonna be okay?" "I'll be okay, love. You can leave on one condition." "What's that?" "That you take care of yourself and call me." Sanchez looked at Paul. "Can you take care of my girl here?" Paul, seeing the way Maria's eyes tenderly fixated on Sanchez, sighed. "Yes, I'll take care of your girl." Sanchez then quickly kissed Maria and ran out through the side exit, Branch's pistol still in hand. Chapter 25. Where's Rude? Friday, January 9th. Paul was awakened by the loud buzzing of his doorbell. "Oh, crap," he said as he lifted his heavy head off the pillow. "I'm so tired," he thought as he wearily looked at his bedside clock. It was only 8 p.m. And then he remembered. Oh, shit! It had been just 5 hours since he had been terminated at WXBS. The coup de grace had been delivered in a short, heartless letter from the network's lawyers. It was not as if his firing was totally unexpected, but he still felt a strong sense of failure and humiliation. It was definitely hard on the ego. He felt particularly betrayed by Dina and Lisa. After all, they were his people, or so he had thought. In any event, he was determined to make a clean break of it. Earlier, he had visited the hospital to see Chris. After that, he had gone straight to his apartment where he only wanted the comfort of his soft, warm bed. The events of the last 6 weeks or so had left him drained and very sleep-deprived. Consequently, he really didn't want the aggravation of a visitor. However, whoever was at the door was being persistent. He kept pressing the doorbell. Paul dragged himself to the door. "Who is it?" "It's Special Agent Wright. Do you have a moment to talk?" "Who?" "Special Agent Wright with the FBI." "Oh, great," said Paul to himself as he opened the door. "Hello, Mr. Earl," said Wright, who looked strangely familiar to Paul, even though he couldn't quite place him. "Sorry to take your time, Mr. Earl," said Wright. "That's okay, I guess." "Mr. Earl, we very much appreciate your helping Agent Branch yesterday at the tavern." "You're very welcome." "But I need to ask you a few questions." "Okay, come on in," said Paul with some hesitation. He then nervously led Special Agent Wright into his living room. "Fire away," he said as he showed Wright to a chair. "But I'm not sure I know much." "First of all, I want to tell you that the Bureau is sorry that your son was shot. How is he?" "Still in some discomfort. We're still a little worried about some possible complications, but with each passing day the prognosis grows a little brighter. So, right now things are looking okay. Knock on wood." "That's great. I just want you to know that our agency was not involved in his shooting. That was local law enforcement." "Yeah, I know." "Well, in any event, I am sorry for what happened to him." "Thanks." "Mr. Earl, what can you tell me about Pete Sanchez?" "Really, not that much. You know, I only ever saw him at the tavern yesterday. He just pointed a gun at me after I walked in. I was terrified, of course, but after Maria spoke to him, he just told me to take care of Maria. Then he left." "Your buddy said he took his gun with him. Speaking of which, how's your buddy doing?" "He's fine. The bullet thankfully missed vital arteries and bone, so he should be able to get back to work again in a week or so." "That's great. Say, were you one of the guys who was following Maria in Central Park a few weeks ago?" "We're not supposed to be seen in that type of operation, but alas, yes." "I just now realised it. And your buddy, he was the other?" "That's right. In any event, and speaking of Ms. Martinez, what do you know of her and Mr. Sanchez?" Again, not that much. Yes, I knew that Maria dated Sanchez before she met me, but I didn't know who Sanchez was at the time. All that she said was that he was a guy who was in the army in South America. She said she got dumped rather abruptly by him right around the time she met me. I'm speaking socially now. She was on my TV show, Flip for Cash. Perhaps you've seen it. "No, I'm sorry, I haven't seen it, but I have heard of it." "Well, anyway, it's been cancelled now. Long story. But beyond that, I really didn't have any idea that their relationship had continued or was continuing. Like I said, the tavern was the first time I saw him. He definitely could have wasted both me and your buddy yesterday, but he didn't. I do know that." "What about Rude?" "Maria told me that he's the guy who did all of the shooting to begin with. Is that right?" "Yes." "I've never actually seen him. Never. Maria said she socialized with him a few times. Maybe dated is a better word. She said he was a cop from South America who she met on a trip down there when she visited her sick father. Apparently, he was quite smitten by her. She said he periodically came to New York on business and that he had a few bucks. He must have wined and dined her some, but she said she wasn't serious about him. Not sure how much I believe her, but that's what she told me." "Why would you disbelieve her?" "I don't know. Maybe just insecurity on my part. Look, you've got to admit that Maria seems to have had a few men in her life, and some strange and dangerous ones at that. So I guess I'm still a little shell-shocked by everything. I can certainly understand that, Mr. Earl. While we're talking about her, how did you meet Maria? She was a contestant on my show, and I happened to run into her in Central Park. Hey, after all, you were there. Oh, that's when your social relationship started. Yeah. Well, you won't have to worry about Rude taking your girl, Mr. Earl. Why's that? Well, he's dead. Dead? Yes, sir. During the chase, he didn't see the taxi coming up behind him. It made a right turn straight into him as he tried to cross a side street at an intersection. You mean he got run over by a taxi? Yep. Where did this happen? About 6 blocks from the tavern. Paul smiled. Only in New York. Only in New York. Totally unbelievable. Say, who is or was this Rude guy anyway? I'd like to chat about it, Mr. Earl, but I'll let the local news handle all of that. Our investigation is ongoing, and there are some folks in Washington who want us to remain tight-lipped. Can I ask about Sanchez? Same thing, Mr. Earl. I really can't tell you anything about him. How about the speaker at the protest, that John Smith guy? I'm really not supposed to talk, Mr. Earl. Oh, come on, Agent Wright. My son's in the hospital over all this stuff, and the local cops won't say anything either. Well, Wright hesitated. Oh, come on, pleaded Paul. Well, Wright again hesitated. Okay. John Smith and Sanchez are one and the same person, Mr. Earl. John Smith and Sanchez are one and the same, Paul repeated. Yes, one and the same. Wow. Now I've got to go. But why would the FBI even be at the protest? Isn't that unusual? I mean, why should federal agents be snooping around a peaceful wage protest? Sounds a little Orwellian to me. Mr. Earl, it was quite natural for us to be there. Isn't it obvious to you? What? We were tailing your girlfriend, and she took us right to the protest. Oh, I see. Yes, Mr. Earl. Now I've really got to go. I don't know, but I may have more questions for you later, if you don't mind. For now, thank you for your help. Yes. Okay. Thank you, I guess. So long.